Welcome to the All Things Real Estate Podcast with our very own Josh Barker. With more than 20 years of experience and over 5,000 properties sold, Josh brings a unique perspective to the real estate market. Let's get started.
Hey, Josh.
What's up, buddy?
It's August.
Yes, it is.
And it's nice and hot.
It is.
You know, we had a real mild intro to the summer, I thought. I was like, yeah, this isn't so bad.
Not anymore.
And somebody turned up the oven.
Yes.
And it's nice and hot. And shade is hard to come by.
Well, 30 days of this and we're already around the corner.
Yeah. September will be here before you know it. You know, Josh, I was watching your market update a couple days ago. And there's some numbers that jumped out at me. You know, everybody has this Chicken Little mentality that they've been, and I'm just like, guys, I don't care what's going on in New York or Austin or Miami. You have to understand this is different.
Sure.
And, you know, the thing that keeps popping out to me, a big one, is new construction permits.
It's down.
It's super down.
It's down.
With no relief in sight.
No
planning in sight.
No relief in sight. No planning in sight. It's new construction is a challenge here in Shasta County, and hopefully we don't lose a lot of our talented craftsmen that are working in the trades as a result of that. Because if we do, it's a very difficult thing to rebuild.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can, do as much as we can. Palomar is doing everything they can to build, and obviously with D.R. Horton pulling out here soon. Palomar is going to be really stepping into that void the best they can, but they have a headwind that is real, is that things are expensive. Cost for supplies and materials are expensive. Meeting all the requirements for the state are expensive. Labor, although a little softer, still elevated. And you still have to manage to, take the risk of developing property. So, I look at builders in our community as being, the standard bearers of the future for housing. We need them.
Well, you've been involved in personal construction projects, so you have an intimate knowledge of how hard that is, how complex that is.
It is. On
multiple fronts. And so it's not easy. And the other thing about new construction is that it's, it takes so long between, a developer comes into town and says, hey, we're going to develop something. It's going to be a minimum of a year before product reaches the shelves.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you were to talk about a person that drives by and sees a piece of property and says, I think I want to do a plan on that to do a subdivision map, and then at that point develop the property, and then at that point build the homes. I mean, we're talking years.
Yeah.
Not a year.
Yeah.
It's a lot longer than that.
And the two factors that are really keeping us at bay, and I still think our market continues to climb. I don't remember I watched the market update. I don't remember you saying the median price, if it changed at all.
Yeah, the median sales price is around that 380 range. So half of all sales. It's just
staying there. It's just hovering.
Yes.
Little tiny trickles.
Yes. Yeah. The median sales price is averaging $380,000 in the market, which means half of all the homes that are being sold are under $380,000. That tells you where the market's at. Mm-hmm. We have had some good performance in the higher price points, but it's very few and far between compared to what's happening velocity-wise in the lower market.
If you have a house under 400,000 or under, I think you're sitting super pretty, because there's a couple of things that go on there. I mean, as far as value of your home over the next few years, number one, you can't take a product to market for 380,000.
No.
Yeah. So you're not going to compete with new construction. New construction has to start in the mid fours and then go up quite a bit.
And even that's hard now.
And that's hard.
Yep.
So you're not going to you're just competing with your neighbor. You're not competing with any new product.
That's right.
And so I think, and then when interest rates come down, knock on wood, we've been saying that, but we got spoiled with the whole 2.8 to 3.8. That was, once in a lifetime type thing. But if we ever get relief on interest rates, that's like the valve being opened on a pressure cooker.
Oh yeah.
It's if you're under 400, you're gonna see property values climb. So I think you're absolutely sitting pretty. And you also, the other big thing that you said, there was a few, but another big one that caught my eye or ear was rental. Whoa.
Yeah.
Rent is high.
Oh yeah. And it's tight. So it's not even a situation where it's, there's high vacancy because the rents are high. That's the opposite. It's high rental rates, and the vacancy is extremely low. I mean, vacancy rates are between 4 and 5% vacancy. And if you really factor in for, when a person moves out, there's usually carpets getting cleaned, some touch-up paint, maybe repair a thing or two, and then it goes back out for rent, or, the new tenant moves in, there's still a vacancy in there of several weeks to a month. So when you think about it, you're like, effectively, there really isn't much vacancy at all. But Zillow is reporting, so you don't take my word for it. Just type it in there if you wanted to into Google and just say, what is the average 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a 2-car garage in the city of Redding currently renting for? And it's going to tell you $22.85 to $23.85 a month, according to Zillow.
I'm old, and so everything's crazy to me.
Well, when you hear that and you think about it, and it's like, okay, well, are those people now going to become home buyers instead? And that product translation is about a $300,000 home. So I would still say that the person that's renting at that rent rate might be enjoying a little bit of a better environment living wise, but they don't own it, than if they were to go and purchase currently at that same number or at that same amount each month. So, it's still not out of balance, but they're walking a tightrope right now.
Yeah. And they're not going to get any of the appreciation. So real estate, you can't talk in short term. You have to have a much, if you want short term, go trade crypto. But like real estate, you have to think in like a minimum 3 years. And I think it really should be longer than that.
Yeah.
And when you look at what we're talking about over the next 3 years, I don't see the market at 400 under doing anything but either staying or definitely improving. It might creep.
Yep.
It's not going to be these huge spikes that people get so used to. But I still think it's an excellent investment compared to renting.
Well, you can't argue, particularly when it comes to primary home ownership. I mean, you could argue whether or not speculating is a good thing for everybody, or whether or not owning investment property is a good idea for everybody. But everybody needs a place to live. And so when you look at all the reports and the data, and it's continuously coming back the same and saying that for those who have higher net worth in the country versus those who do not, the correlation between the two is home ownership.
Yeah.
And it's an undisputable fact that, owning a property is certainly better than renting over the long haul, because you have a position in the market, you have a hedge against housing inflation, you have the appreciation in the market, there's tax incentives for owning a home versus not. So there's a lot of good reasons to do it, but you have to, also have some stability too. You can't be you can't be moving around too much and have a home. It just doesn't really work really well because it's harder to liquidate. You want to sell a stock, you press a button. If you want to sell a home, you got to hire an agent. And so there's a process to it.
Yeah. So I'm still mildly bullish.
Sure.
Especially, again, I don't talk about things in the whole market. I keep drawing the watermark at 400,000 and saying if you're looking at 780, it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
It's different inventory. It fluctuates. Luxury's different.
Sure. Well, there are things that are changing, though. I mean, we're watching it over the last 60, 90 days, and I've been keeping an eye on the sales volume and what I would call the velocity of pendings. And the velocity of pendings is slowing down. It doesn't mean prices are going down. It just means the rate and sell through homes are selling is slowing down. To give you just an idea, like 90 days ago, if you were to type into our multiple listing service and click single family homes, or I should say residential homes, and then also click the pending status for them, the result would be nearly 400 properties that were pending on any given day. Well, if you fast forward now 3 months later, where we're at now, if I were to type that same data into the multiple listing service, so I'd say, residential home, pending status, it's going to be, 302, 305. So it's down 25% pretty much. And that is very noticeable. And that just tells you the velocity of home selling is slowing down. Now, we're still ahead for the year compared to, so if you look at this year to date versus last year to date, we're still ahead, but we're slowing down fast, which makes you wonder, okay, what is the fourth quarter going to look like?
Well, we got a lot of factors that you mentioned in the market update. Fuel cost is a huge one, and it touches everything.
It does.
The food gets to your grocery store and your restaurants and your house through fuel. All supplies, fuel, labor uses fuel. So, you know what I mean? So it is a universal cost. And right now we're dealing with some higher fuel costs, and hopefully we'll get some relief from that soon. I'm curious, and I put you on the spot with these. You don't know I'm going to ask, but is traditionally August slower than May? Isn't it? Doesn't it traditionally slow down over the summer a little bit?
August tends to be a little slower than May historically, yes.
Well, that would be 90 days, right? So, but it's not usually 25% slower, but it's probably like what, 10 to 15%.
Well, that closing
slower?
report that I'm giving you is from July.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not. What I have narrowed it down to, I think there's 3 contributing factors to the velocity of home sales slowing down as fast as it has, and one of them is interest rates going up. We start off the month in August here at 6.875% is the average rate, and it's stubborn. It doesn't look like it's coming down fast because of the second issue, which is what you mentioned, inflation. It's still there. Fuel cost is real. It translates into a lot of other things that we purchase. And so that's putting pressure on it. And then the third one that I mentioned in the market update earlier this month is that the state of California had a program that was available for first-time home buyers. That program has now eaten through all that money. And so those buyers who were participating in the housing market a few months ago could not participate today because the program doesn't exist. And that's also contributed to the sales velocity slowing down. So, that's what I'm looking at overall. When I see it, I go, okay, well, it's slowing down. What does that really mean? It hasn't translated into pricing going down because the amount of listings coming to market has also come down. And I was talking to our agents about this the other day in our meeting, and I said, understand that whether the market's good or bad has nothing to do with how many homes are selling each month. It has to do with if you're a homeowner and you decide you want to sell your home, can you put your home up for sale at a fair price? And can you get an offer in a short amount of time that allows you to go from where you're at to where you want to go? That's how a seller determines if it's a good market or a bad market. A buyer is the same thing. When a buyer wants to buy, is there a piece of inventory that's available that meets their criteria that they can afford to purchase? And if the answer is yes to those 2 questions, then the market's good for the buyer too. It has nothing to do with how many houses are selling each month, because it always relates to 2 things: supply of homes and demand relative to that supply. And that's something that, agencies have to think about too, because truth is that if we only were selling 100 homes a month, that could still be a good market for the buyer and the seller, but it would be horrible for our industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's something that as we're watching what the market's doing going forward is, what does that total participation look like? That's why I'm so concerned about new construction being withheld from the market, because that is an opportunity to expand the housing supply, which allows our population to grow a little bit, which takes the pressure off of some of the city infrastructure and things like that.
Yeah, and that's going to be, depending on interest rates, it equates to being better for sellers, because what you're basically saying is we're not replenishing supply. So if you're the person bringing supply to market, that gives you a little bit of an advantage. Maybe.
Depends again on what that demand looks like.
Yeah. And and the other side would be interest rates.
Yeah.
If interest rates were to drop, if 6.875 is based on today's prices is really, really high, in my opinion.
Well, and combine that with higher elevated fire insurance, and things are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're just here to report. We don't control the market. I mean, you've always given, your 2 cents on, hey, man, if the state and local could just relieve a little pressure on those regulations that they've just been stacking up for 2 decades and say, hey, can we come down just a little bit? It could have a very positive impact.
I think so. Ultimately, I'd really like to see, the amount of housing in Redding definitely expand for a few reasons. One is because it keeps prices from elevating too quickly, because you're providing more supply to the market. 2, it creates an opportunity for a person to relinquish their home and to move into something else, right? So instead of trading positions or trading housing, you're actually adding to the housing supply. But we really need the population to grow, and I don't think anybody wants higher taxes. But at the same time, people watching this or listening to this, I think you could agree things are more expensive for us this year than they were last year. Well, that's not unique to us. That's the same for our government as well. Our government is paying more for the same goods and services that they need to consume in order to provide their core services to the market. And they want to, obviously, they would like to raise taxes, I would imagine, to take the pressure off of them having to sharpen their pencil too much. Wouldn't we want to do that? Wouldn't we rather find another way rather than to have to cut back, right? So when you look at that, you go, well, what's a good way out of that? And I think a good way out of that is to grow the population. Now, I'm a really grateful for the size of our community. But if you were to add another, let's say 10,000 to this population here, it would take a lot of pressure off of the core services that are delivered without maybe raising those taxes. And I think that's one thing where I look at too. Looking long term, it's like, how do we help to facilitate services to our community without having that extra burden of tax?
What a game of chess.
I know.
We got like 6 moves ahead.
Yeah.
Got to just like get the take board, and
Yeah.
and the Sicilian Open probably wasn't a good idea.
I have friends that don't want to see us grow at all. They love the fact that the town is the size it is, but it does come at some cost too. It really does.
I always love to quote Thomas Sowell, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs.
That's true. And that's exactly what that is.
Yeah. So, well, shifting gears a little bit, something I've seen, because I'm involved in tech and real estate, is there's a lot of consolidation, a lot of mergers. Huge company X is buying huge company Y. Yeah. People who provide services to real estate are gobbling each other up right now.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's a common thing. Like when the market's just going like this, there's all these new, like everybody's getting their license and all these new software companies and all that stuff. And then when it levels off or maybe even dips, which outside of Shasta County, big markets, it's been dipping for a while. All of a sudden the mergers start to happen.
Yes, yeah.
Are you seeing that? Like, I'm coming from the tech side, but are you seeing that from the
real estate side?
Yeah.
Real estate companies? Yeah, we're seeing consolidation, I think is the word that I would use to describe it. We're seeing mass consolidation with a lot of the legacy brands that's happening right now. And there's some reasons for it, but I think the bottom line is this: what you're seeing is a concentration in core services because there's an economy of scale. So, you bring 2 companies together, well, then you really only need one CEO. You only need one, accounts payable and accounts receivable department, basically, right? Mm-hmm. You can have a more consistent marketing platform because you've brought in these brands together. The actual ERPs or the CRMs, whatever you want to call them, that you're providing, all of your services through, they're all, you can automate that and make it a little bit more streamlined and get your costs down. Brokerage is not very profitable. What people don't understand is that once you get to that legacy brand level, their profit margins are very thin, very thin. You just look at how they're trading those that are on the stock market, how bad they trade, and that's why. But when you look at that, it's like, okay, well, how do we preserve the company without losing it? Well, that's where those consolidations are kicking in, and we're seeing a lot of it right now.
Yeah. Do you think that's good for the industry or bad, or just it doesn't really matter?
The bigger issue. Yeah, that's a good question. The bigger issue with the industry isn't really consolidation. It's really supervision and management. I think there's too many agents now that don't have anybody overseeing their activity and their productivity. And so as a result, the core services that are being delivered to the consumer, from the agent are diminishing. They're not as high quality as they had been in the past, because in the past, you'd have a brokerage with a broker, you'd have sales manager overseeing the activities of their agents on a daily basis. And so when contracts were being created and when services were being delivered, there was this minimum standard that was being held up. And right now, because most agents work from home in silos, there's just not that level of oversight. That's the change in the industry that really is putting us the greatest risk on services in the future.
So you think it's going to go back to more traditional, where brokers are actually going to be brokers and managers and stuff, versus just like, hey, let me use your license and I'm going to work from home and be a cowboy?
Yeah. Actually, unfortunately, no.
No, it's going the other way?
I think it's going to continue.
I completely misread. A swing and a miss. Ball 4, ball 8, ball 12.
No, I don't want to say it's going to be a sad story, but it's going to be a very interesting story, because I think that the industry, the cloud-based brokerage industry, has found their niche. They have found what agents want, which is to have very little supervision, to basically have a higher structured split, and they just do whatever they want, right? And that's going to work for a little while. And the question will be, will a governing agency, like, maybe in California, let's say the Department of Real Estate, step in and say that they're going to require a higher level of supervision over agents? And that's really something that they would need to do at that. If there's any regulation that's needed, it's there, because there's really just too many that are unsupervised now. And that means a customer doesn't necessarily get what they thought they were going to receive when they hired the agent. That's the problem. It could hurt the industry.
Well, darn.
I know it's a bummer, but it's a popular model, and no, I'm not going to put a name in there. It's just that the concept of cloud-based, it comes with some disadvantages too.
Well, maybe AI can step in and help us, Josh. You think maybe AI can come in and clean things up?
It might be able to do some of it. I mean, the thing that makes it unique in real estate, and I'm sure all these businesses, industries say, oh, we're different, we can't be disrupted. And I do think that some of the industry itself could be disrupted. I'm not saying it can't. But really, at the core function of a real estate agent is a project manager. So you're managing the plumber that didn't show up. You're managing the contractor that showed up 3 weeks late. You're managing the person that said they were going to do this, but they didn't. And that's hard for AI to automate because AI is functioning in certainty. It uses patterns that are basically established. Like, I know this is what we're going to do next because this is what's supposed to happen. Well, that's not how it really works in reality. When you're dealing with probably 150 different tasks spread out across at least a dozen people just to facilitate one transaction, let alone multiple, then now you have some really complexity to the deal, and it's harder for AI to get in there and tap it in. Now, I do think that they can help us do better. I think AI can assist a person in being a better project manager, and I do think that's a realistic way of looking at it. And that's certainly how we're approaching it. We're automating a lot of different processes, but it's not the human to human process. It's more of the, how do we help us identify patterns?
Yeah, I had a conversation this morning. So a friend of mine met with a high-ranking person with Elon Musk, and Elon had hired several hundred PhDs out of various top schools, MIT, Stanford, things like that.
Sure.
Bought a school, moved all these people there and said, hey, we have a year to be profitable. They worked on a system 6 months in. He said, cancel it. AI is going to take it over. And the person was like, is that like the future? And I said, well, you have to understand that Elon's working in a space of intelligence and robotics. So he's an outlier for AI. And the issue that we're going to have is kind of, this touches upon what you said, is that in the real world, in the physical world, AI can only help somebody. It can't replace them.
Currently.
Yeah. Well, it won't stop until it rips your heart out, Sarah. But I love the straight face. You didn't. That was, come on. That's Terminator. Bud. Come on. I'm quoting Terminator here.
Fair enough.
Gotta give it to your clothes. Give them to me. But what it can do is, like you said, with those agents, it can just help with like, hey, let's stay on task. What are my things today? What inspections are due this week? It can just help a person. But in the physical world, I don't see it. It's not going to open up a house. It's not, all it's going to do is you can give it maybe some plans and say, hey, where should I maybe put this house on this lot? Or, what are some alternatives for energy or something like that? And I say that because that's what I'm going through with it with AI, but it can't go walk the lot with you. It can't go open up the house.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Respectfully, I would say right now you're 100% right on that. And I do think that 5 to 10 years from now, do I think there'll be an opportunity for AI to be in a wrapper, which would essentially be a robot, that have the software, which is AI, updated into hardware, which would be a robot, and then be able to do some of these things? Sure. I do think that we could probably open up houses in the future.
Well, you heard it here first. You've got 5 years.
But how I still see it, as long as there's other humans that have the potential of screwing something up, you're still going to have somebody that can, accommodate for that. Otherwise, what you're going to have is a very rigid process. And so real estate, what people don't understand is that it's a very much a presentation, right? It's a presentation all the time. And what I mean by that is that if you and I are in a transaction together and I upset you as the buyer or a seller, and you contractually have the means in which to do so, could you cancel on me?
Usually, yeah.
Right. And it would be because I wasn't respectful in how I treated you. And your retaliation is to cancel on me. Right. And I mean, I'm using childish ways of describing this, but that's the reality of it, where, a buyer makes an offer, seller doesn't respond the way they want, they're offended, they walk away. Right.
Happens all the time.
And I think that type of thing would happen all the time if it was AI that was facilitating those processes, is because they're going to work in certainty when in reality you're dealing with humanity, and it's not the same thing. We are emotional beings, which means that emotions need to be managed. And I think having a professional come alongside of you and provide that consultative approach to how to address things is going to be the ones that serve the customer the best, right? I mean, and a computer just can't do that part. But do I think they can open up a door? Yes. Do I think they can read a contract? Yes. Do I think that they could give you the best recommendations on how to respond? Sure. But again, it needs to go through that filter of how do you think the other party might receive that information? They're not there yet. They don't have EQ. They have IQ.
We're working on programming EQ into it. Thank you. Well, okay, so I think we're saying the same thing. I think we got the streams crossed a little bit. Is that so? One of the things because I'm pretty deep in AI. Immediately I think of I'm a lawyer, so I know what good barbecue tastes like. But I'm pretty deep in AI, and the thing that keeps coming back is that AI won't replace you. A human using AI will replace you because what happens is in a normal organization, you have a certain number of A players, B players, C players. And we all know that if you've ever worked anywhere, you know that there were people that you could always count on, and you knew that there were people that you could always count on taking their smoke break when you needed them most. So what happens is these A players using AI lift up their abilities, their performance. Instead of them being able to handle 7 things, because they're using AI, they can now handle 10 things at the same efficacy that they did at 7.
Sure.
And so suddenly the C players, so, I have kids, college and high school, junior high school, and I've been getting them introduced to AI and trying to really push this hey, you need to become an expert in your domain.
Yep.
And AI is like a tool. It's just a workbench. I use, me, I like to speak in nothing but metaphors and analogies. I don't like to talk about it. But, I said, imagine the first farmer to get a John Deere tractor and the farmer who was behind a mule saying, I'm not getting in that contraption.
Yep.
It's well, you're not going to be able to bring food to market. It's just a tool. So you still need, even with robotics, you'd still need a farmer that understood the earth, understood the seasons, understood when you should plant and things like that.
It's a great way to put it. And we are saying the same thing. Yeah. It's so for me, I'm not worried about it. I'm definitely embracing it. I do think that it's something that's going to be with us, and it's growing rapidly. The real interesting thing will be the marriage between the actual software itself and putting that inside of a robot that actually can function. Mm-hmm. That is going to get super interesting.
Super cool. I went through, you and I talked about this. I brought this up a couple. I went through my dystopian phase. I did. I was drinking all the Kool-Aid. Whatever you focus on expands. So I was all the death, dystopian, apocalyptic stuff. And I was I remember calling you, and I was pretty down. I don't remember that call. Yeah. And I was like, our pets' heads are falling off. We can't lose our composure, Josh. Don't lose our composure. And you're like, breathe, relax. So I just shifted my gaze to more of people just saying, hey, look, this is how I'm being more productive with AI. This is how I'm implementing it and putting it in my system, and just getting rid of some of the menial tasks I didn't want to do, the copy and paste, hey, go through this document and summarize it for me, things like that. And everything changed overnight for me. And now I'm not utopian, but I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to get in the tractor and I'm going to have AC and Sirius XM streaming, and I'm going to plow the field.
Look, all I have to do to help anybody like yourself who's a high-functioning human being.
Oh, I'm glad you added human being. I thought you were going to add something else after high-functioning. High-functioning sociopath like you needs help.
That too. But if you have 10 people on a wall and you said, well, the top 30% have nothing to worry about. The top 50% are still going to be okay. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. I'm like, dude, come on, really? You're not going to be better than that. You're going to do fine. I think a lot of people need to keep that in perspective. I think what Elon did recently, I did an interview. I think he did it with The Economist.
Yeah.
I mean, I had friends freaking out all over the place, calling me all upset. And I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, and I look at things, I guess, a little bit differently. But when Elon said to me, he said, hey, through that video, watch.
I was like, wow, he called you. Hey, Josh, you have Elon on line 3.
What I heard him saying is that, products and services are going to be essentially anything that can be highly automated, that's pretty everybody needs it kind of thing, is going to be just about free.
Yeah.
And that's because of the automation. And I can appreciate that. But what it also means is that there's certain asset classes that are going to be extremely expensive, because if money is no object, then what's real estate really worth? Because you're not making any more of it. And if everybody can has access to money, then how much is something like that going to go up in cost? right? That's how I look at it. I look at real estate. I go, oh my gosh, it must be going through the stratosphere at that point because you can't make more of it. And until we start colonizing the moon or Mars or whatever, which ain't during our lifetime, this is a pretty impressive thing for us to be looking at as an asset class. So I'm super, super excited about the future when it comes to that.
I am too. I mean, I'm on our call this morning, I said I'm 90% excited and 10% anxious.
Yeah.
There's some anxiety, but I always feel like those two emotions, like I don't know the brain or anything, even though I know what good barbecue tastes like, I don't know neuroscience. But I always feel like those two things, they're right next to each other, excitement and anxiety, right? Like the roller coaster, really excited and the heart's beating. Yeah. And at the same time, like, you know, so
it's good feedback that you're alive.
Right on. Well, Josh, thank you so much for this, and find shade, and I'll see you in September.
That sounds good, buddy. Thank you very much.
If you're enjoying the All Things Real Estate podcast, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.